So here on turn 12 of Throne World, the Veneb, who were in the lead and then became tied for first, made an attempt to scan the Throne World, and the Zytel actually managed to block that with a jam. The Veneb are out of jam chits, so they were unable to counter the block, but they did get one scan over here. The Catenni response to the Baralti attack that happened a little earlier, they slid a fleet in and used the advantage. Different troops are better on attack, different ones are better on defense. Most of the people have taken attack troops in general because they're expanding into neutral territory. In this case, the B fleets are much better on attack than defense, and the Catenni were able to find a force of Baralti because they got split due to the jamming on the attack that they could pick on. It was perhaps a little bigger overall. In fact, it was definitely a little bigger, but because it was mainly these Bs, blasters, it fell fairly heavily. So it took 8 losses to 4 for the Catenni. The Baralti gathered their fleet together at their home world, and then the Catenni, who were unable to deal with, there were like 5 heavy infantry units there on the planet, they were unable to deal with that directly, but they played a sabotage card. Now, they couldn't play that against the fleet at the home world, some of the rules in the game, but they could take out a lot of those heavies, and that's exactly what they did. They don't own the planet yet, but at least they could attack it. They don't have a lot of ground forces right now. They brought them with with the intention of, if they're going to be invading, they may have to do some fighting on the land. And the Baralti came right back and took it back. Their fleet, after the casualties, was entirely blasters, more or less by intention, because they wanted the best combat fleet available. And here's what the Catenni have left after this. 2 blasters, a mothership, and some light infantry, and that's it. It's looking really bad for them. It's a production turn, so they may be able to throw some defenses in the way. But yeah, they were the weaker empire, and after a few shots were traded, and the opposing side, the weaker side, the defender in this case, because of the balance of the type of forces, in both cases ran from the planet. We got the Catenni moving to where they have some ground support with a comm unit, and they also have a space shield, which should help them a little bit, but they just don't have the numbers. So if they can't get more there soon, they're going to be in trouble. So this is the end of turn 12, on to turn 13, which will be a non-production turn. And the game has definitely entered a more interesting phase as far as I'm concerned. No longer do I feel like I'm just trying to figure out, what's the best move for this kingdom, for this race at this time. But now there's actual conflict happening, and one worry is, geez, does that mean the game's about to end? That's what happens in Stellar Conquest. That's what happened in High Frontier for different reasons. But in Stellar Conquest, as soon as the game hits the interesting point where fleets are really engaging each other, unless somebody charges at the beginning of the game, generally, by the time they do start touching each other, you're at the point where it's almost the time when everybody's got planetary defense screens, except of course me, because I'm pretending that I have them, and everybody believes I have them. Yeah, that's for you, Mark. So there's the worry here that everybody's close enough victory point-wise in terms of planets that if they take Throne World, they win. But what happens with this game is it gets thrown into this strange sort of different type of play as soon as somebody declares for a victory. First of all, everybody's got a turn to knock them out of victory. But also, production stops mattering. They're no longer Empire turn, the Empire phase, where you end up getting your production, you end up getting the random events, and you end up getting additional research. So everybody's stuck with what they have on the board, and I don't know how much that's going to affect things. It could be that the wars are decidable anyway, but it could also be that things kind of end up in a stasis where nobody can win again, and then the game kind of shakes out and returns back to the position where there is an empire phase and you can start producing. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to how that's going to work out. But I am kind of taking a lot of enjoyment in the game now that people are engaging one another. It was kind of, I don't know, it felt like many, many people solitaire, and I don't like playing games where I just am figuring out the puzzle of the current situation for every player. I want there to be interaction with a solo game. I don't think I would mind this at all, that part of the game, if I was playing it with other people, because, there'd be beer and stuff. After 13 turns here, this was a non-production turn. We're going into a production turn. I feel like I'm playing Land 4000 with Ask Mr. Lincoln whether or not we get to produce. All right. What happened? Well, the Veneb, who've been in the lead on and off, mainly in the lead, expanded to another planet. They got their scan off on the Throne World. They're at 11. They get one more planet. They start the victory cycle. Right now, the Pasha were able to get scans on 2 Veneb worlds, as well as throwing one into the Throne World. So their mighty forces could directly impact any fight. Of course, you could sort of backdoor a win by jamming, if you only have one opponent, basically, by jamming the person who could stop you. And that's kind of the position the Veneb are in. They do not exactly have, it's not that they only have one opponent, because the Trill are close enough and got their technologies up high enough that they can now reach the Throne World at the very least. They also moved command posts up so that they can play and interact with everything. Both the Trill and the Pasha are in second place with 9, and then everybody else, I mean, yes, they could win if they grabbed Throne World, but other than that, it's not really an issue. What about the Baralti Catenni War? That ground to a halt. Not, a permanent one, but there simply aren't enough command posts. Those ones over here are neutral. So these 2 are held by the Baralti. That's all they have. And they haven't been able to scan and push forward. Whereas the Catenni, who've also been dropped to only 2, have been able to halt any further progress. Now, each side is using things like sabotage, etc., to knock out the other person's command post, which is very, very painful. I mean, it's halting the war completely. I think it's really cool, but there are just so many different ways that you can stop an enemy or soften him up. So there's so much cool stuff in this game. So the excuse me, the Baralti got away with a kind of cool attack. They slipped in, let's see where, into this space using their survey team and scanned over here. Because the space was empty, they could just grab it. And then they did an economic boom, I'm not sure if that's legal, to build themselves a fleet, which consisted of a lone protector. That's the best they can do. I'm out of shields. And the protector's pretty good, actually. But they also used the points there to add, do another local development over here and add a command post. Because that's been their real stopping point, is not having enough command posts. So now they're at 3 of them, which gives them an edge. The point was that the Catenni have run out of chips they could use that jam the Beralti attacks. And the Beraltis actually have a couple of jams, not that they had the counters for it. So the game's just entered into the new phase, and that is to try to take the victory away from the Venab before a complete turn goes around. And there will be no production, there will be no events, and technology will only be off of, like production off of chits. Spending a chit on that at this point in the game might be very risky. Usually you'll want to be using your chits either for sabotage or to produce more forces for the war. The way this happened, the Venab were unable to get into Throne World. They got blocked again by the Pasha. However, they pulled the same little trick the Beralti did and sent a survey team in alone to take a territory from the Catenni. And that pushed them up to the 12. So now things start getting interesting.